Welcome back to the official broadcast for the FISSURE Playground 1 Dota Closed Qualifiers presented by FISSURE. We are ready to go. Game 2 about to be underway. We've got the draft coming up shortly. We're going to be able to see the full thing as well. So we are not quite sure what the adaptations are needed out of Namiga. But we do know Hydra looked very good in Game 1. That was a dominant victory from them by the scorecards, and we'll see if they can replicate that.
They're going to have first pick to be able to do it as well. They won the coin toss, so giving themselves that selection priority. I mean, just the order that the last draft went through, we had a bit of a chance during the downtime to see, how everything was coming out. Hydra first two picked their supports, which is not something that we see all that often. A lot of teams like to have a little bit of flex in there or pick the core that they think is going to be the strongest in the game. Clearly, it worked out for them very well, but not sure if it should have. They gave them plenty of options to be able to counter out the Phoenix and the Nyx Assassin with, perhaps a much faster early push lineup. And Hydra were able to finish the draft with this Tiny, which I think needs to be given a ton more priority by pretty much every team, just because, like I said, can be played every single role. We've seen it work. Jant has made it work as a 5. We've seen Noob winning with it in the Western European region as a 3. 2, enough said. We just saw another dominant performance there, able to just cripple the Ember Spirit in the lane. And 4 and 1 have been historic picks as well, although not as much in recent times. So I just want to see more of the obvious stuff. It feels like a lot of these teams are trying to reinvent the wheel when you can just pick what's good, pick what suits the meta right now.
Yes, without a doubt. So let's see what the meta heroes they're going to try and draft. We'll see the Dawnbreaker.
Is Alchemist the only thing we haven't seen? Like, that's been super popular? Has it even been let through once? Maybe once. But that'd be about it.
I think we saw... I don't think in East Europe. Maybe we saw one game with it in Western Europe.
Yeah. And we've seen one DK, I think. We've seen a bunch of Lina, bunch of Dawn, bunch of Bat, bunch of Beastmaster. Wonder if Magnus is going to be the priority for Hydra, considering they themselves have that first pick overall. And if they want to maintain the flex, that could be the way to go. But like we said, they just first two'd their supports and weren't really punished for it. So I wonder if they're going to go down that sort of avenue again.
Well, so we saw them have a successful Nyx Assassin game as well, so I wasn't sure if the Nyx would be something they would look at. We have seen some people respond with like a Clockwork or some other heroes if that was the route, but the Namiga, now they have the option of the Magnus, like you were saying, which we could see Hydra go for.
Could indeed. What else could be used against the... I mean, I wouldn't... Not that I love it as a hero, but I could see Clockwork here, just if they want to keep them guessing a little bit. But in my opinion, just Tiny. What's the downside to tinying at this point? You're going to have the ability to ban out what you feel is one of the bigger counters. Sure, Gyrocopter's fine, but for the lane, it doesn't feel amazing. You're probably going to be able to keep far enough away on the Muerta if you are indeed playing this as a position 1. I think the 4... I don't want to call it a bait, but it requires a very, very fast style of draft, and I don't know if you want to be committing to that possibility this early with first pick. With first pick, I'd rather just get something that's across the board good. It doesn't matter what sort of draft it needs to fit into, it can. Whereas this one, it's kind of win in 25 minutes with a pos 4 gyro or play at 1. And so if I'm Hydra, I'm just going to draft to slow the game down a little bit, 1, and 2, counter that gyrocopter in some capacity. So, something that's able to get it on top of it, perhaps some anti-heal in the form of the Doom, maybe pick up the Morphling for yourself, so ban out some of the Morphling counters, and that's the sort of thing that I'm really thinking of.
Okay. Well, let's see. Using a lot of reserve time for this second phase of ban, so really trying to work out what they need to be worried about here for Hydra.
As well as what that 1-2 punch is going to be going into the next phase. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to, like, Lich +1, for example. Just, against the Gyrocopter, it makes it so that you're so much more capable of standing your ground and fighting. Decent combination with the Muerta, with all the silence and the slows and everything else going on there. And I think Clockwork can make your life a little bit more challenging.
5 seconds remaining.
I mean, Bristle's still in the pool. Wouldn't hate a Lich Bristle.
True. Bristol is still in the pool, something that we saw, and we were mentioning in the first series about how strong this series is, and with it getting that victory earlier today. So Clockwork maybe, again, I do think this hero as a support is quite nice versus the Nyx Assassin, especially in the lane, and being able to kind of chase him down while he's doing the shenanigans of cutting.
Really just wanting
Okay,
to make this Gyro have a not so great game. What is left? Tusk and Marcy, if you're wanting that front line.
Yeah, we've seen dying a couple times, but I don't think that hero looked good, and I would not particularly like to see it again.
I just, like, what are you supposed to do against the Muerta, right? Like, that's always going to be my main concern. I'd probably prefer the Tusk because of that. Like, yes, you can just end up rolling into the calling and make your life a little worse, but you can also really get up in the face and, you know, prevent the Muerta from having that impact early on. Good Morphling ban, again, like, it feels really effective against the Phoenix. It feels really effective against the Gyrocopter. Solid across the board.
That it is. Now, what five are we getting as well from Hydra? We already see like a decent amount of teamfight that Namiga are showcasing with their two picks. I mean, the Muerta definitely has teamfight herself, so you can't kind of underestimate the spells from this hero, but let's see how Hydra want to respond to this, if they're going to be able to get a little bit of teamfight for them.
Remember, diving around the Phoenix isn't diving around the Muerta is not always going to be super easy for this Phoenix as well. You know, just with the calling and the dead shot even, a nice way to be able to interrupt the Sunray. Lich, sure, fine. Can you bristle into the Phoenix? It's a little worse for sure, but you end up having a decent amount of, you know, movement speed, decent amount of attack speed as well, a body for both of these range supports, which I think is something that's somewhat needed. And yeah, the one issue that I would have is just the lack of potential to actually lock on to that Gyrocopter. So if they bristle, it kind of needs to be a 1, because you need a little bit more of that AoE control to be able to truly enable it. So I'd be thinking Mars for Hydra's next pick, the one that's going to round this out, and then you just ban out some of, again, those Mars counters. But I think Namiga could be very happy with just picking the Mars up themselves, right? Like, you've got a nice combo together with a Phoenix, you enable like a small area for call down, flak cannon, all that sort of stuff, and even just the spear against the bristleback feels pretty good. So I think across the board, I would be super happy to be able to pick that one up.
I would agree. I think also Hoodwink is another support we could be looking at as well, right? If you put the Gyrocopter as a 1, go Gyro Phoenix lane, and Hoodwink Mars for the break. Versus the Bristle, which is something that you've been kind of mentioning, and also been a little bit surprised the fact that we're not getting that. So you don't have Shadow Demon. Gyro can be that Silver's Edge builder, and I can't imagine Gyro Phoenix is that bad of a lane. Like, you're just going to spam out the way with Fire Spirits and Flak Cannon. I think you should be fine.
Yep. I'm just thinking, could they get away with like Mars Nyx is way too greedy, I think, into a Bristle Lich. Yeah, there's the Hoodwink and there's Doom. Okay,
they do.
Similar sort of priorities though, right? Blink Dagger builder, reduction in healing aspect, you get the break from the Hoodwink. My concern is the lack of, like, again, lock-in. We've seen people play great Hoodwinks, like Pablo is the one that really jumps to mind for mine, keeping Zero Tenacity in the lower bracket of the Western European region until the top 3. I think they got all that way. Okay, so it's going to be probably an off-lane Bristleback coming through here. Not sure how I feel into the Gyro. Going to be as easy. Gyro Phoenix actually isn't that bad of a lane. But clearly feeling like this is a much more free Drow Ranger game with that lack of backline dive that we've been talking about. So again, I still feel like the mid laner for Hydra does need to fulfill that sort of quality. You're not really worried about the Phoenix. You're more just concerned on keeping them away from your Drow Ranger especially. So whatever that's going to be, like, is it... It's not necessarily like the body, but I wouldn't hate Storm Spirit either. Like, yes, it's into the Doom. That feels not so great, but you should be able to dodge out the Hoodwink fairly effectively. We just saw I think it was Namiga actually that played the Ember Spirit, but it's not the worst Ember Spirit game of just being able to, poke onto the backlines as well.
I think you can Dino too if you're looking at like a similar hero.
Yeah.
For the body and also someone to go in. I'm a little bit surprised that they banned Puck themselves on Namiga, but I guess I thought it would have fit their draft better. Well, yeah, I thought it would have fit their draft better, but I guess they have the ultra last pick, so they wouldn't have had the first decision to go for it, and I think it still would have worked for Hydra too. For
sure. And like the other option is you just leave all of the heroes that could counter the Puck in the pool,
is
right?
Tiny still there?
It is.
Yes,
That's the real surprising thing for me. Again, just finding a Phoenix before you're able to do anything, finding a Hoodwink before you're able to do anything, getting Gyrocopter down to 30% before you're able to do anything. These are all the sorts of things that I'm still going to be a little bit concerned about if I'm Namiga. Going back the other way, that's probably something that they're considering, like, will they pick Tiny if we leave it in the pool? Because I feel like Namiga kind of want this hero as well. Just a way to be able to... You got to remember the Grow is that that armor that's able to not worry about the marksmanship coming through. So yeah, I think this is just a bit of an oversight coming through from Namiga, thinking that this one would be fully let through, but they just claim it for themselves. Why not? It gave them a pretty confident win in the previous game, and looks like it has the potential to happen again.
So you mentioned the Storm. I think it's still like Storm, Void, Ember. It's a pretty tricky game, but you need those style of heroes. Earth Spirit is, if he's an Earth Spirit player, I think maybe better, to be honest. Because
I'm not a fan of the Earth Spirit, just in general. I think it's way too unreliable. I wouldn't hate Timbersaw, for example. Something that's able to dish out a little bit of damage going back the other way, burst damage especially. The Timber Chain onto the Lich. Yes, it probably means you need to go the BKB, which kind of sucks, but that's the reality of the situation that you've drafted yourself into. I didn't mean to, be rude and interrupt you about the Earth Spirit. Have we seen one good Earth Spirit game these quals? I don't think we have. It's just been kind of unreliable and, very much a slow burn, which is not what you want against a bristleback for sure. Even a Tiny,
I agree.
So much HP.
I agree. I do want some hero with a stun, so, which is my issue. Who did you just suggest?
Timber.
Because I liked it. So Timber I'm incredibly happy with, but again, I think there are potential for the Doom not to have as much value and the Egg not to have as much value. I think to win this game, like, the Timber needed to like go godlike, which I think was a very real possibility with the lack of ways they would have been able to kill the Timber this game. Like, how would have he actually died? So I think that definitely could have been a reliable way to get you over the finish line. They're going to go Sand King themselves. So extra team fight, extra burst versus the bristleback with the epicenter, melee matchup, which from what I've been seeing really hasn't mattered that much, honestly, with the Sand Kings. Like, if you're going up against another melee hero, they seem like they free farm. So I don't know. We can speak about that a little bit more as we get into the game, but do we like this ultra last pick from Namiga, I believe it was, going the Sand King?
Yeah. I don't mind the Sand King. I think it's fine. Like, it does solve a lot of the issues that we were talking about, right? Quick burst damage. The Caustic Finale, if you end up actually getting the kill on the Tiny or the Bristleback in these team fights, is going to deal a ton of damage just because of the way that it works based on, their HP and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with you that you're not really going to stop this Tiny from farming, and I think that's going to be the bigger issue for them. Tiny's just going to be able to come back even stronger, find the burst for the SK before you're able to get into the Blink Dagger, but they needed a way to be able to deal with the Drow. They needed a way to be able to deal with the Lich, and I feel like Sand King is that. So we'll have to see if they're capable of doing it. I also want to see what facet. Very rare to see people not go the Sand Shroud facet these days, but I still see a ton of value out of that Dust Devil just to be able to, consistently move around, pick up a lot of these neutral camps that you should be trying to claim for yourself.
So we'll be able to find out what the facet is going to be when we get into the game. And for the 9 other heroes, there's some concerns on the Tiny, just doing tiny things once again, like we've mentioned. But are you favoring Hydra along with me, or do we feel like Namiga have got a? I know we can't really say much about game 1. Do we think that Namiga have a draft where they can even this out?
they have a better chance than their game one draft, in my opinion. Just it feels like they do have the ability to disrupt the formation somewhat that Hydra has. A big part of it is probably going to be, honestly, ignoring the Tiny altogether. I think the Tiny is much more susceptible to a lot of these team fights if he's like the second target that they're looking to go on. Force him to use a Panic Avatos combo. You've got that percent damage coming through from the Infernal Blade. You've got it coming from the Sunray. Early on, not really things that you put too many levels into. Just the one, probably, on the Doom to be able to begin things. And yeah, of course, the Sand King in particular. That Caustic Finale is going to be impactful in team fights, but you got to get the kills to really enable it. He has gone the Dust Devil facet, though, which I like. You're going to be playing with a Phoenix and Hoodwink with the Tree Bounce Trick Shot, so plenty of ways to be able to make stacks without actually, walking up to the actual creep camps. Can just use the Fire Spirits or the Acon Shot to be able to do so.
Yep. I'm also, just to speak about one player, excited to see how Shishak is going to perform. Of course, some people may be a little bit familiar with his name now with the short stint that he had on Secret. I wasn't able to watch some of those games, so I'm excited to see how he's able to perform and what Poppy thought of him. Obviously felt like this was someone who he could work together with and win some chips. So yeah, I wasn't able to see many of those games, so excited to see him.
Really like this play coming through. I mean, it's become pretty common these days, but realizing the relative weakness of the attack damage coming through a single last hit while the creeps were pushed underneath because of the body blocks that came through from Actor's Bristleback. What a name, by the way, for a Pro Dota player, Actor, for someone that they're like, yeah, this guy's legit, sure, why not? The amount of times I hear people call someone else an actor in C-pubs is kind of crazy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes, the good old actor. It's a nice little insult. How's the opposite lane doing? There's the opposite side lane, I should say. Seth lane looking pretty good, 6-1, 6-0, of course, but double range versus the melee range of the Doom and the Hoodwink. We have seen this be a pretty formidable laning combo depending on what ability the Doom's able to get inside the jungle and as well the heroes he's up against. So we'll have to see if the slows can prevent them. Shishak probably giving up our first blood with the Frost Blast is there. So one of the higher damage nukes of the early game.
Really liking this from FSD as well, making sure to keep this camp locked up as much as possible, not wanting to give Doom that potential value creep from the Devour, although he still hasn't put a second point into it. I don't think there's going to be too many scenarios where you're going to have the Infernal Blade available, so if I'm him, I'm probably putting a skill point into that Devour early on just to assist a little bit with your scaling into the middle of the game, because you are a significant factor towards how you're going to be able to deal with this Tiny and the Bristle.
Honestly, if we look at Nemiga's draft, I know we were saying like maybe there's going to be difficulties with them getting on the Drow. Do we think the scaling might just be something that can get them over the finish line? Like the team fight with Doom, Gyro, Sand King, Phoenix, even Hoodwink as well. I think you probably scale better with the supports on Nemiga compared to Hydra. Like, I feel like Lich late game probably gets addressed with Nullifier, although they don't really have a Nullifier build-up, but like can be answered with. And so like, I know we spoke about there's being some difficulty with the Drow this game, but do we feel like ultra late game Nemiga could actually be okay just because of the heroes they have?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, Phoenix, great late game. Hoodwink, super scary into a core.
And we are back. Apologies about that. Didn't miss too much action though, just some internet issues. We are back underway though. I'm ready to go still in the second game. So you were in the game. Then you were able to keep track of everything going on. Is there anything that we missed? There's a hold that because Lich is getting run down. Dude, any support from Daya? I feel like Doom and Phoenix are both there, but unfortunately they got no heroes here.
No heroes at all. I mean, the things that we missed, Drow got a double kill, and then ever since then, Phoenix making the rotation up towards the top side, and Monodrama has really corrected things in a pretty big way, right? Involved in both of those previous kills, once onto the Drow herself, and then of course we just saw the dive in onto the Lich there, and that's going to be a pretty significant factor, right? Early on, Drow's put one value point into the Gust, which I do like. Just to be able to keep them away, keep this space, make it the squishier ranged supports and carries are going to be a little bit more safe, I suppose, in a lot of these engagements. But for now, it still does feel a little bit scary if you're rotating multiple people to this lane. You can see Shishak, even on his own, is able to do a decent amount. There's that
Doesn't
dive.
look very good for Dio. It's nice to have getting on top of the Drow Ranger with a Fire Spirit spam. 34 B's gonna have a Blood Grenade up in the face, but the rotation from Ethereal will be able to stop the Phoenix chasing his carry. Nice movement out of the Tiny.
Speaking of, surprise, surprise, he's had another good lane. Not too many lanes bad for the Tiny these days. I mean, we've even seen into the Lina matchup, probably one of the harder matchups that exists. Tiny still does just fine, you know, just because as soon as you hit your level 6, the harass from the Lina goes away, and you're hitting your quick burst timings much, much faster than she is. So, you know, a single bout of bad positioning means you're just getting burst 100 to 0. They gotta nerf Crash Landing more, man. It's just way too good.
Really liking how Nemiga are playing this though. Once again, bringing both supports to the top. Even the Gyrocopter's going to go through the portal as well. Maybe the Phoenix got in a bit too aggressive,
Cavalry's
however.
here.
That they are indeed. They're going to be able to respond with a big stun into the TPM from the Bristle back just before the tower goes down. But the call down, looking to try and cover the TP if they got any damage. They do not. So Cutie is out. And they get the tower, but of course both supports are going to be killed off. And unfortunately, they didn't get that main hero in the Drow.
Actor's just looking to try and chase the Doom across the map. No cares in the world about him TPing just in front of you through that twin gate. And looking across the board, Doom's just hit his level 6. Not really too much mana to be able to make plays with, but I like this move down bottom from Shishak. I don't know if it's going to be enough damage though. He's way too far back into the lane. Are we actually going to be able to go for this?
Okay, Sand King's here. Yeah, nice rotation for the position too. Seemed like they were going to be lacking just that extra oomph, but that is not a concern now. Oh, they lost that mid tower though.
Yep, Crash Landing still doing damage to towers. This thing just does everything, this hero. How could you not want to play it? Crazy that it slipped through to the last phase once again. And they're not letting up.
And the hero's fun to play too. It's not like it's not fun to play.
Horrible to play against as a pos 5, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Yeah, that probably Lina at this stage as well, being blown up 4-0. We'll see if they can do that against the Doom.
He just
Surrounded
had
by
his
both
eyes
supports
off
on
of his map.
Hydra. And 4 heroes at the moment for Hydra, just occupying a territory that you would not expect, but this is heavily enabled bit thanks to the deep observe ward around the triangle, so they were well aware that no one was remotely close. Meanwhile, we do have the Sand King taking a stack away from Hydra's own territory. It's not a big one, so we see the stacks. It's only 3 made overall from Hydra currently.
But it is something, right? And that's what they needed at this stage. They just needed a small victory, even if it was something like that. And with that stack, he actually accelerates himself a good way towards that Blink Dagger. He's just about 100 or so gold away. So that's really the big tipping point that I'm looking for here. You know, are you going to be able to make the most of this epicenter? It'll still just be level 1 epi, unless he really wants to greed it out and wait for the level 2 for that extra amount of damage. But I think if you do that, you're just going to get some of this passive growth coming through from Hydra, right? Tiny couple of extra levels, we'll have, you know, more of that strength gain coming through. It feels like they're just waiting for someone to defend into this tower, but Meow not taking the bait right now will mean that the tower just goes down uncontested.
With the Phoenix? Oh, nice kill. Protecting the observer ward. They're going to, I think, deny theirs. I don't...
Bit of a mistake
Okay,
there.
they did it before they dewarded.
Gotta have the comms. Even backing out in time, so they're not even going to be able to get rid of the sentry. So it's a little bit of wasted time coming through there from Hydra. Wasted money as well. And they get the deny on the tower. So honestly, that could have been a much better couple of minutes from Hydra. Probably could have been even close to a 3k net worth lead if they were able to stick around.
Yeah. Especially if this tower goes down bottom. Gotta mention that the mid lane is really quick just to keep tabs on them. We got blinks on both. So even though the Tiny is almost about 1,000 net worth over the Sand King, they both get their blinks at a similar time and they are ready to go. A smoke from the Mega.
Good positioning by
Looking
Problems.
to aggressively contest the power room, but yes, great position. He's still
missed.
got to jump up top of the Burrow Strike's off the mark, and now with the toss. Holds it both inside the calling. Bushwhack in a decent spot's going to continue to stop some of the spells from Problems, but Ethereal should have the combo back up in a second. Looks like it's not even going to be required. Though Egg, Actor with the Fire Spirits connecting. It's going to be lacking some of the right-click attack speed. Now they're going to turn for the Tiny. Ethereal comboed out. He's going to be able to escape. Not until the Doom's able to wrap all the way through the river. So from top to bottom he goes, even thinking about trying to utilize that ultimate, but they will not be able to stop the Bristle back from being able to slip out of danger.
Completely cutting their losses was FSD there. I mean, he didn't even try to put the Frost Shield in onto the Tiny, maybe just expecting that he was straight up dead, not wanting to feed his life over as well. Didn't have the Chain Frost at that time either, so maybe that was another factor. Maybe if they felt like they could, you know, turn around into that engagement, it would have been a different story. I'm a little surprised that they stuck around for that long. You know, once you've revealed the Blink Dagger, you have a ton of extra information to be able to play around with, and I liked even where 34me was farming at that point in time. It was just not in the lane, not revealing himself.
Oh, they know.
Oh yeah.
The Observer Ward scouting out the movement, and with the Chain Frost, Shishak at least is able to sharpshoot himself away, so the Frost will not continue to chase him, but regardless, your offlaner continuing to have a bit of a difficult start here for Nemiga, bottom out of all the cores. But it does hold it pretty steady at the moment. You do see Gyrocopter, someone who we haven't really mentioned that much. 1-0. Farming up pretty well, still behind the Drow by a little bit, but I believe it was the Scepter that I saw him have queued up, which is going to be a different adaptation or a different item build that we saw recently in Western Europe. I know we were getting a lot of the drums, but even then, people were just not even going the Scepter.
Dude, these stacks are juicy. Actor's just going to be able to get pretty much his completed Pipe of Insight plus a full magic wand off the back of this. And you talk about effective items for the game, Pipe is up there at the very top. I mean, look at all the damage that's going to be coming back the other way. Sand King, almost entirely magical. Gyro doesn't have too many items at this stage of the game, so he's relying on the cooldown. Scorched Earth, Sunray, Fiery Spirit, Sharpshoot. Like, it's a lot of magic damage that you're going to have to resist, and well, he's got the best item at this stage of the game to be able to do just that.
Love to see them try and take a fight then off the back of the pipe. Do you have a preference on where you would like this fight to take place?
Just had a quick scan over the map, and I was about to say like where they've got vision. They don't know it at this time, but it's actually some pretty decent vision that Nemiga has down on the bottom side of the map. So no tier 1 towers yet to claim. I would just look to try and prioritize probably the bottom side, just because you either get one of two things, right? They're probably not taking Roshan on Nemiga's side, and if they try and defend, you're a little bit stronger, and then you can use that to push into either the tier 2 tower, or just rotate through the twin gate and get Roshan yourself. So vision, Roshan potential, tower, any of them is a good thing, just to enable your team.
They see the Drow farming.
Do indeed.
Drow is... Well, yeah, very deep. Like, this is a crazy part of the map to be farming. And, well, that is going to be a big mistake.
He was farming on the side, so it wasn't quite as bad. And you just see how much vision they're committing for it, right? Those two observer wards covering very similar territories. So really wanting to pick him off.
He's going to do a haste through now for Ethereal. That kill does a big help to the Gyrocopter being able to equalize the net worth. Drow was getting a little bit further ahead of it. Honestly, it was like 800 net worth difference. All of a sudden, they're pretty much even. And we got a very even game, though. Not like game one, where Hydra were just able to quickly dispatch of Nemiga. This could be the skirmish, though, for Hydra that they're looking for. You got haste up on Ethereal.
Yeah. You don't know if he actually walked into that creep, because he doesn't actually have the smoke coverage. They might be able to see the Sand King, FSD. Just a bit of a glimpse there, and be able to blink away.
Oh, they're playing behind him. But the burst is too much. It's a great cooldown. Look at the wraparound for the Gyrocopter. Oh my! Beautiful positioning. The pincer from the south, catching them off, intercepting that retreat. And you get the Sand King kill, but it is a costly price for Hydra.
Just some of the positioning from Actor wasn't in the exact right place. You know, he used the pipe towards the end of that team fight, didn't redirect a lot of the attention onto him, but like you said, big props need to be given over to Cutie. Being able to make that rotation as problems, he's in a lot of problems.
Now who's
Just
doing the problem at the moment? Who's in some trouble? Might tick, we'll tick up to the Sunray. Glimmer kept last second. Is he going to tick up to the Sunray? Meanwhile, Actor easily being able to chase down with the Doom. They didn't get any of the supports. You serious?
No TP on Shishak as well, and he just used his Bushwhack. There's the Frost Arrows coming through, and yep, there we go. The tips following as a result. So just going a little bit too deep underneath the tower. It was a full magic wand that FSD had to be able to play around with to punish that dive in a big way.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Now they're going to be able to take some aggressive farm inside Hydra's jungle. Sorry, Nemiga's jungle. Ethereal even will farm up this mid wave, shoving it out. So back and forth game at the moment. We see Sand King top net worth though. How much are we expecting out of the hero? Like, is this someone that needs to be in this position to have a lot of impact inside the game?
I think so, but I think the more vital thing is, you know now that you're going up against this pipe, right? Hold on. You might be needed for a counter-initiate. They're not even going to start the TP, so he doesn't have it up for the next 15 minutes or so. So he's got the Bloodstone, he's got the level 16, he's got the Blink Dagger, but we're not seeing too much movement coming out from Pro here on his Sand King. He needs to finish up that Veil. That's what I was just referring to previously, right? You see you're going up against the pipe. You need some sort of way to be able to cancel out that damage with, your own higher effectiveness. Instead, it seems like he's going for an Eternal Shroud, so he got a decent amount of damage that's going back the other way in terms of magic.
Bro, crazy, like Hydra going to be there.
He's already popped it though.
That he does. But it is not going to be enough damage, I think, output to get the spell lifesteal. So, Pro's net worth is good, but we are not really seeing it come into play.
Really utilizing that Dust Devil in a big way. We're going to go for some lane cutting as well, making sure that without the glyph, once again, they're just not able to defend into this, and it should be pretty easy, just dragging the wave as well, letting the creeps hit into the bottom tower. And this is that Roshan timing that we were talking about, right? You win a team fight, you set up a bunch of vision on the bottom side of the map, and it's about to tick into that 20-minute mark. So it should be pretty easy with all of the minus armor that they have. Bristleback's got the Snot Rocket as well. So plenty of minus armor building up into that Roshan to enable themselves to maybe not go high ground. It's still a little bit of a risky prospect, but anytime you've got a Tiny with full Kanda that's just able to, blink in even up onto the high ground to blow someone up or toss them back to the rest of his team, that is a deadly prospect. And he's got amp damage as well, so anyone reveals on that lane, they are dead meat.
That's what I was going to say. Where is the man to help out? So Roche take a little bit of time, but it seems like Radiant want nothing to do with this. They've got their eyes over towards the Tormentor along with the Wisdom Brew.
This smoke is just going to result in absolutely nothing. You know, a lot of people haven't revealed on the map. Maybe they're expecting someone's going to TP to this mid lane, and you can look to punish in time. Not if you're revealing on the lane like that, though. From Pro, they would have seen the creeps just get exploded, and they've already split up, actually. So it's only him plus the Doom hanging nearby, and Doom doesn't have that immediate gap close. Shishak is just dead.
She is playing very split from the Mega.
I don't know,
Punish.
Man. It was a slow smoke, and then they split up when they had the potential to catch someone off of a TP, right? Might be able to get the mid tower as a result of it, so it's something, but you've just got so much momentum going Hydra's way, and they're even going to be able to yoink this Tormentor.
Oh, they didn't even get it, okay.
Okay.
Okay, I was just worried about the Aegis dying. Another T2 tower. Wisdom Room still up for Hydra, but no one's going to look to sneak in. Steal it. It seems like Nemiga... Okay, well, Pro's going to take a massive stack of the Ancients at least, so we'll get him, I believe, to almost completing the Eternal Shroud, and we're looking at the BKB very shortly here for the Gyrocopter, so probably they're going to... I mean, you've still got 3 minutes left on the Aegis, though, so it's going to be difficult for you to avoid it, an eventual Aegis fight. At least you are going to have those key items to take that fight, though, even with the disadvantage in the number.
This is when all those hours of Dota really come into effect, right? All that game sense that you've built over time. You can't really reveal on the lane, but you've got to keep them pushed out so that you're not just going to be losing your base in the next couple of minutes. You know, only one tier 2 tower left in terms of outer towers. Gyrocopter just TPs all the way back, assuming that they've moved to the bottom side of the map, but just have a look at the vision advantage that they're playing around with right now on Hydra. You know, scouting out anyone in the mid lane, scouting out anyone in the bot lane. Not necessarily like a ton of actual vision, but the information that you need is still like the can we get a pick off, basically, not where is the entire team.
Right, so unlucky for Lich. They got 2 shards, none of them went to the Lich. First one went to the Muerta, the one they stole from Nemiga's Tormentor, and then the one they just took went to the Tiny, which honestly is
pretty good.
Not the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good to will very much assist with farming. Yep, that is also true as well. I guess the farming now isn't much of an issue with the toss, so...
They see the entire team grouping around this high ground, though. It just comes a question of, do they want to fight? Sand King just hit level 20, so if this fight doesn't go well, I don't know what fight could for Nemiga. Like, Sand King needs to get connected with the rest of his team. He needs to join in, and it needs to be at least a 3-man epi, I'd say. If they can get this backline
let's see the positioning then.
They have complete vision.
Pop the smoke. They're actually going to go for their own smoke, but Arcane Brood for the Tiny with the jump over the top of the Doom. Onto the mid laner, preventing a lot of the spell casting. That's a nice target to take out of the team fight.
Not a good chain for
Got to keep attention on how they're going to be able to deal with the Drow Ranger as well. 34 and me has Cutie running up into his face with the Epicenter getting charged over to the right side, but the Epi, it's just not good enough. Finally going to get on top of the Drow Ranger, but this is your Aegis carrier, and you have used too much to no avail. Muerta over the left side will be fine momentarily. Sand King's able to get the blink away, but the multi-shot and the chase down has arrived. The slows the stack here. The goose spam, the frost arrow spam. You are stopped to a crawl and Hydra. I mean, it looked honestly okay for Nemiga to start. The fact that you take the Tiny completely out of the team fight, but you just weren't able to capitalize and convert that into a successful fight.
I still think it just comes down to a lot of indecision coming through from them, right? They had full knowledge of the entire positioning coming through from Hydra because of this great observer ward that Monodrama placed down, but they were a little slow to group together. They were a little slow to move up onto that high ground. Someone's going to die on Problems, and that's a good amount of net worth actually going the way of Shishak. But they could have just made that quick wraparound, right? Hit the backlines, take the Lich out of the team fight, take a lot of that minus armor away. You can, you know, take out the Tiny again. Still feels pretty good. I was actually a little surprised with how low level the Drow Ranger was at the start of that fight. She was barely 16 at that point. And you know, that's a bit puzzling. I guess they have been grouping together a fair amount, so that's going to, you know, of course, cause you to suffer in terms of your overall XP. But with him topping the net worth, I was expecting at least 18 at that point.
Yeah. I was going to highlight the Doom's level as well before that fight. I don't know what he is now, but
13.
I think he was like 12 or 13. Yeah, okay, so there you go. I mean, he's incredibly low level.
Not really getting value out of that
Level.
Devil's Bargain. Might be looking to sell the drums soonish, just the one charge in it, but I suppose he's only about 100 gold away from the Blink Dagger, so no need to do that just yet. I've seen drafts come unstuck though, going on high ground.
May look to... He's going to run past the Tiny, I think. Mine didn't take that angle. Went to the left instead, close towards the base. So narrowly avoiding an Avatos combo to the face.
I think they know we're pros farming.
Yeah, farming, yeah. Observe what at their own triangle. And that's going to reward them in a pretty nice kill into the Sand King. At 75 seconds without him, they may just look to try and walk it down and force a buyback or at least get some objective damage.
34 Mi's moved down to the bottom. I would much rather they just move towards mid. They've still got this vision on the high ground. Scratch that. Getting dewarded by Monodrama. But that kill actually got you your BKB on the Tiny as well. So he should be feeling incredibly confident in just pushing this lane down and testing whether or not the Sand King has that that buyback.
Yeah,
leaving 34 Me on his own on this bottom side. He's not even going to get punished either. But they're backing up. Lots of respect being given over. Maybe you're afraid of losing the game, but you've got to make sure that you're wanting to win it as opposed to just prevent the loss.
Yeah, honestly, a bit surprised that it didn't just go mid instead of farming. I mean, there was a lot of farm bottom. I think he pushed 2 waves and the entire jungle, so sure. But definitely felt like you could have at least maybe gotten a decent chunk of damage to the tower and Glyph expended as well, which is a pretty decent victory. But look, you're farming. You're getting these next set of items. He's actually going Ag Shard by the looks of it, which he will now buy out. So everyone on Hydra is going to have their own shard to work with, which we'll see that Omega, they only have 1 on the Phoenix, which is a pretty good shard to be playing with. But Roshan is definitely what we're going to be looking at. And Omega have team fight. This is still the thing, but we need to see their team fight come into play together. Maybe this is the occasion. Not if Ethereal is going to be able to get the initiation. It's a big toss back, but the silence. Too late for the Drow Ranger. Pro's okay.
And the rest of the team not quite joining in with them either. Yeah, Ethereal, again, I keep mentioning it about the Tiny, but he's nowhere near finished farming, right? Like, he's still holding on to a bottle. He's still holding on to a Soul Ring. He can look to get into that AC. He can even just look to get level 18. Ethereal.
Both going to run into each other. The left side, tanking. Fire Strike forced to get away. Meanwhile, Ethereal running down Cutie. Cutie steps to low ground, protected with the Shadow Blade. Eyes on Sand King and what he's going to be able to do because they're currently clumped up. He tries to get the jump, but it's just not perfect. He doesn't catch anyone. Now, it's a good supernova, though. Sunray burn with the laser beam will be brought down, though, with the Drow Ranger uncontested. Cutie wasn't able to get on top of the carry. In fact, he got on the Tiny instead. So it's a 2 for 2. Sand King also gets a glimpse of the Bristol back over the right side, but a defensive 4-star. Actor out of danger, but the Drow Ranger is going really far here. A potential opportunity to be able to catch them on the retreat. But with the sun cooldown, a big issue to stop the escape. Very close though on Pro, but again, the fight didn't even look perfect for Namiga, and we saw like they can still take these fights and for it to be an even trade, even with the spells not going incredibly well for them.
I mean, Bristle barely did anything in that fight as well. 380 damage is not what you're coming to expect from him. It is a lot of, you know, block and regen and everything else that they have, but it was like nearly more than double. It was double the damage that they did on Amiga, and it was still that 1-for-1 trade. Just going to show how tanky these heroes are, how much damage it takes to be able to get through this giant wall of Tiny plus the Bristleback. I do like this gem purchase as well from the Bristle. I think they realized, you know what, the only reason they tried for that form of initiation was they thought they knew where we were. And, well, they did. It was just not the greatest form of initiation that came through. Roshan's actually up, though, on the bottom-hand side of the map. And with Chain Frost being used, with Pierce the Veil being off cooldown, could they possibly consider it? Seems like Cutie isn't prioritizing it that much right now. Might just be considering dropping the cooldown on the bottom-hand side of the map. Not revealing himself on the lane per se. Still dealing with it. And he is going the Silver Edge. So, again, such a key item to be able to have against this Bristleback. Only level 14, though, on the Doom. And, you know, once it gets to the later stages, yes, one of the better scaling cores that exist in Dota. If you were wanting to get, you know, level 25, Doom either applying the Mute or applying the Break, both a fantastic option. This game in particular. It's going to be a long way there. No Midas for him.
Yeah.
And he's sold that drums with the Devil's Bargain, so he got a lot of value out of it, and only 50 gold away from the Halberd as well. So not the worst thing to have against this Drow Ranger. One, to be able to pop the Lincoln Sphere. Two, doesn't have the BKB, right? So you're just going to be able to really reduce her effectiveness in a lot of these team fights.
Sand King got TP?
He does. He's also right next to the Twin Gate as well, if you wanted to just walk through that one.
Roshan's dying. And I feel like if you're going to take a fight, it's going to be around a choke point like this.
Well, another freebie.
Yes, another freebie indeed. Drow's going to TP top. Look to shove the lane out. Mid is cross the river as well. They make have 3 heroes huddling together. And some of the other heroes split away. Ethereal's going to get a glimpse of the support mid.
Hold on, though. They would have just seen a couple of TPs, right? Drow revealed up top, Tiny revealed mid. So do they have the tools to be able to just, you know, group up together and make their own push?
Bro? He may feel invincible with this Eternal Shroud Bloodstone, but that's just not the case.
Needing to make space, I suppose, away from the rest of the team. I don't believe they had a Smoke of Deceit purchased up on any of the supports, and indeed they've, just with those slowish uses of them previously, you know, didn't result in them able to converge onto Roshan, didn't get them a kill in the Radiant jungle fight previously. They have none in stock, they have none in inventories. They just can't really make any plays like that, so Pro is sort of forced to make that kind of suicidal move.
Actor.
Around Actor.
And they're going to try and jump all or nothing onto the Bristleback. He's a little bit away from the team, but the rest of them are mid lane. Ethereal does his best to disrupt the disengage with the Supernova Sunray. Once again, it's good, man. This damage is a lot, but there's just no one there. Finally, they'll convert on 1 kill. But Drow Ranger's ready to turn it back around, standing strong on top of the glacier. Atos as well to the Hoodwink outside the base.
2 cores down.
2 heroes without a buyback.
Ethereal's considering just diving in onto the back line. He had the Blink Dagger available, but why not with the Aghanim Shard just start smacking into that tier 3 tower? Don't think they dropped the banner yet, did they? Is Lich holding it? Yeah, that's probably why. There we go. Didn't use the epicenter, so I'm sure they're going to be very respectful of this. Kind of splitting the damage on the racks a little right now, and maybe they're actually going to overstay their welcome here.
Yeah, it's getting a bit awkward. The epicenter charge up, it's going to be there, but that is the Aegis carrier, so he turns to Ethereal instead with a toss away. And now the pipe is activated with a mitigation. Hydra still really need to reevaluate this, and yeah, the call has been made. They're going to disengage. 34 mid does TP out though, so the Drow Ranger isn't there. Tiny's out too. Nice dead shot. Seems like they're fine. Wait, Actor? Standing in the trees, maybe trying to slow them down with a little bit of goose, not spam, and they will all slip out to the safety of their side of the map. So net worth lead not really growing that much, all things considering, because the objective damage wasn't dealt, nor the economic damage with the buybacks not being used.
Very interesting pathing by Lich as well, assuming that they're just not going to be sitting inside the jungle, but he's lucky enough that no one is farming in that general vicinity. Level 35, sorry, minute 35. So we see those Wisdom Runes start to come up. Wonder who's going to claim it for Hydra, because Lich is approaching level 18, but wouldn't mind Drow.
With the Drow Ranger. Onto the Gyro. He just put up a... I was about to praise Cutie as well, to be honest, but good thing I didn't speak too soon with that death.
It's a Daedalus right there.
And maybe Pro. No one else is nearby. Tiny to be able to capitalize on him holding the Sand King into place, so shoves out mid, but 70 seconds without your Gyro, they should have a good idea that he doesn't have buyback with that item, and maybe he'd saved enough for it as well, but they can try and force it out.
Yeah, no glyph, so why not? Just keep this lane pushing in. It's still the 35-minute creep wave, so double siege creeps coming through in the top lane. Making sure to take the ranged first for Ethereal in that mid. Wanting to, I'd say, at least kill the tier 3 tower before you take the melee racks. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to, but I suppose they're not really worried about the glyph either with the Roshan's banner down, so those siege creeps are going to be totally fine. And yeah, this is 2 lanes. Look at Actor's positioning, not worried at all.
Oh, they're going bottom.
Sure.
Aegis is about to tick out. 25 seconds.
It's about the time
So
of
we've
that
got a little bit of time
up,
here.
though.
Look at the position for the Bristleback, putting himself so far forward. He is making Nemiga have to go through this hero, acting like a bodyguard.
Tier 3 tower, not worth giving up a couple of potential lives. Rather just get away, respect the Gyrocopter, who, again, like you mentioned, they would have looked at the inventory. They would have seen that Daedalus was complete. Of course, the Silver Edge as well, with how deep Actor has been positioning himself in a lot of these fights. Always going to be very dangerous to go up against. Nearly finished into just be the Veil, actually, on Actor. So he's eventually going to look to try and build into the Shiva's Guard. Of course, going to be very nice against the Sunray, against the Bloodstone from Sand King, who, by the way, just hit level 25. So it really just does come down to the initiation in a lot of these team fights, right? And Drow is target number 1. No BKB just yet. 400 gold away. If they could find her, that would be the dream. But they don't really need to leave this side of the map, right? Someone needs to defend mid and top, and the fact that no one is pretty telling. It means that Hydra could just walk up onto the high ground.
They saw the Drow Ranger bottom with the lane observer, hence why they all started to run down. Sand King.
The shard griefed him.
They got a glimpse of him.
His shard pulsed because he was near them, and they knew the positioning. FSD blinks up onto the high ground and just chains him 100 to 0.
No one's had buyback for Nemiga. The entire game, no one has had enough gold for buyback. It's Megas now. Must be so frustrating for them to play. We've seen a couple of fights, but never perfect one with the synchronicity of spells have been there.
It's getting close to nowhere to run territory. Even inside the fountain, that Chain Frost could potentially be coming. Plus the Glacier, giving you the vision on the high ground. And once again, Actor, you're not playing against a Tiny. You've got the Tiny, so you can afford to put your body right up in their faces. And there's the Tiny.
And Tiny's in. Speaking of him, almost blows the Phoenix up. Forces not a good supernova on the far side. Cutie tries to go toe-to-toe, but the Drow Ranger has too much net worth, and this is going to be Nemiga in quick fashion. G's called, and another 2-0 for them. Unfortunately, they don't even win a single map here in the qualifiers for the FISSURE Playground 1.
Yeah, looking a bit rough for them, to be sure. And Hydra looking far more impressive than their result yesterday would have shown, right? They lost the series in combined 41 minutes, I think. And this time around, it was about hour, 5 minutes victory combined for themselves. So, you know, big difference. It could just be the mood, you know, a 16-minute GG, pretty rare across the board. But clearly today, they had their gaming shoes on, and they were able to get that W in pretty decisive fashion. Wouldn't you know it? Another win for the Bristleback and the Tiny. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Who would have thought indeed? And they played, I think they played team fights really well. The communication for them, for the positioning as well, like how they needed to put themselves, like Bristleback really far forward, Tiny making sure he was the one jumping in as well, You always did a good job to be able to check the drought, the vision.
Sorry, if you
across the
said
map.
something, my
This was
headset just half broke. So just a sec.
Is the headset is it okay? Gotta need to make sure the headphones are actually okay. But yeah, I'll keep yapping away, and then I can fill you in afterwards. But for Hydra, this is good stuff to see. Excited, but I want to see them repeat this. That's the big thing. You know, like you were saying, they struggled in their series on day one, but you know, it's the fact that are you going to be able to replicate this heading into the second round of the lower bracket? They are who they got. They're going to have the loser of Chimera or Liga team, so potentially a rematch versus Liga. We will see. Actually, maybe not. We'll see. We'll see what their opponent's going to be. That's later down the line. We don't have to worry about that at all. But for Hydra, good showing. Impressive from them.
Yes, indeed. I've got you in my right ear, so we're okay. Yeah, it was a very impressive showing coming through there, and I'm interested to see who is going to be the team that they're facing up against, right? Like you mentioned, Chimera or Liga team is the possibility. Want to make any predictions for that? I really like the look of this Chimera Esports team, so I'm going to favor them moving into this. Like, they were able to get a slightly longer victory than Liga team going up against Hydra, but Hydra just goes to show really depends on the day. You know, are they showing up? Are they going to be able to get that quick W? The big question for me actually is, can 4 Pirates keep the momentum going? Because 9 Pandas, they looked in red hot form against One Move yesterday.
Yes, that they did indeed. It was a pretty easy victory for them, but you know, maybe 4 Pirates, the team that wasn't supposed to be here, didn't win the the first open qualifier, the second open qualifier. They had a lucky opportunity just because they made it to the grand finals of one of them, that they were able to play in the last chance qualifier, and you know, hence why they are around and you know, took down 1 win, the first seed team, and 1 W, and now they're going to be playing versus 9 Pandas, like you said. For Chimera versus Liga, to answer your question, I will say Chimera, but I do not believe in Dahak offlane. I saw, it was a while ago, to be honest. It was a couple of months ago, but I really was not impressed with some of the games that I covered when he was playing offlane. So it has been some time where I'm sure he's been practicing, and I really liked him as a carry. I like a lot of the other players on that team as well. So we will see. We will see. That is later in the day. First up, we're going to be starting with the boys on 4 Pirates taking on 9 Pandas. So we've got a bit of a break. When we come back, we've got our 3rd series of the night. We'll see you guys then.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, welcome everybody, and you are watching the FISSURE Playground 1 Dota tournament brought to you by FISSURE, and I have been invited to become a special guest here as my true work begins later on today. But they asked me kindly if Sandy Claus could give a little Christmas visit. So all season's greetings and Merry Christmas to all of you. Hope you all have been very kind and very nice on this day. You as well, my trusted associate, Harry Freak. I believe you might have stolen the ears of one of my reindeers, but I'm happy to have you here.
Yeah, a little bit of a biology class. These are antlers, right?
Antlers.
The reindeer
apologize.
do have ears anyway. So, that's fine. That's fine. You haven't been with reindeer for like all eternity. That's
It's been a year.
Yeah,
it's been a long year.
It's completely fine that you don't know. But yeah, we got great Dota before you go off to your normal work, and we are in the upper bracket. So in the Western European qualies, we didn't get to cast the upper bracket semifinals, but that changes today.
That is absolutely true. I believe I have been associated last year or at some point of the year with the 4 pirates. That had something to do with my reindeers, but was kind enough to visit the 9 pandas at one point during the year. And now they're going to be playing against each other to apparently advance to the next round, which should be the upper bracket final. And of course, the second matchup, I think we're going to be covering later on today with the Chimera Esports and Liga team. What can you tell me about these teams, Harry Freak? Is there something I should know about these teams and their players?
Overall, 4 pirates are, I mean, you have Otaker and Natty Narwhal, which are kind of known to the competitive scene for quite some time. And then we've got three players that are kind of new. Mr. Morale, Ariel, and Perdanchik. Those are the 3 new ones. They went through the last chance qualifier, so they barely made it, but they did win versus 1W. And I guess that does give you a little bit of a... at least teams are going to be a little bit afraid of you. The 1W recently haven't been looking the greatest. So either way, coming into this series, I think 9 pandas who have been playing together for quite some time. They have Solo, who is recently became a one of the first or one of the 3 first people who are going to be in the Russian Esports Hall of Fame. So he has been in the scene for a long time, and possibly like the before Miposhka, who won 2 TIs, he was the most accomplished captain of the
So they don't need any presents from me.
Is that how it goes? I mean, everybody
I
likes
think
presents.
they are getting
for sure.
a ton of presents. I just have to deliver them.
Exactly.
But all right, let's drop the role. we got Magnus, we've got Dawnbreaker coming out here in the first phase. I mean, we've been kind of talking about this Magnus first phase for a while. I think this is an interesting one to open up with if it is one of the comforts for the team. I think there's like a lot of drafts you can build around this hero, so I do like them just instantly snatching Magnus in like directly in 8th instead of being a response to something. But is this Dawnbreaker directed towards the Magnus, or do you feel like 4 pirates just want to build around this Dawnbreaker being in the draft?
I would go with the second option that you mentioned, because usually I would see Magnus as a potential solid hero versus the Dawnbreaker, because you do have a skewer, right? You go in with the RP, the Dawnbreaker sometimes has to respond instantly, depending on what kind of damage follow-up you have, and then the second that you see the Solar Guardian, you just skewer them away, and it becomes an issue, because the Dawnbreaker won't be able to join the fight where she wants, and won't be able to heal those heroes. So I'd say that they just want to build around the hero, and she is kind of strong, so despite her being a Magnus, I don't see it as a huge problem.
Okay, all right. You're looking at the second phase bans here as well. The Sniper and the Monkey King taken away. I think the Monkey King's a good ban, especially if it ends up being in the lane versus the Mag, so that's a good ban to take out. There's only a couple heroes that could do really well versus the Mag in the lane. Maybe you could say Life Stealer to some extent, if you don't get poked all over by the shockwave and force out your rage in unfortunate places. But I think banning the Monkey King pretty self-explanatory. But what does 4 pirates want to get rid of? The Nyx is still in the pool, but we have seen quite a lot of Dawnbreaker picked and then Nyx ignored.
Yeah, people don't seem to want to go for it. I guess when you have a Magnus, you might want to have a different position for with him, and not everybody plays the Nyx. That has to be said. Yes, he has been in the meta for quite some time, but not every position 4 player is willing to play it. Not every offlane player is willing to be sacrificed a little bit at the start, and it just depends on what the team likes to do. But let's check for Pandas and if they've been playing that Nyx that much. If not, then you can ignore it.
Dire team pick.
And they banned the Invoker instead. I'm gonna get a Muert. Okay. Interesting. It's a range support with a lot of extra damage to provide early on. Good for the ganks. Sandy Claus knows a lot of things about Dota.
Yeah, seems that the Lich is just more valuable too. Okay. Remember when I was saying that the Lich ulti has become a problem? I was wondering when somebody who used to make it a problem even before the facets is gonna be coming out, and that's the Grimstroke. Imagine a good RP on like 2-3 heroes in the double Chain Frost. It is just gonna be people blowing up. It just now comes down to what they're gonna be pairing with this Grimstroke, and a lot of the melee heroes have been coming back into the meta, so I assume that they're gonna find a good one other than the Magnus, who's probably gonna be laning with him, but some carry that's gonna be jumping in with the Inkswell later on.
This is like one of the first combinations that ever came out since the release of the Grimstroke, where people were like, what are the single target abilities that go well with Grimstroke? It was Lion, it was Lina, and it was Lich. So being an easy support duo like this, playing on a very simple wombo combo, you have the RP to bring them all together, even if you don't have the Grim ulti. But if you do, then you just have multiple chain frosts bouncing around, so that is very solid. And to look at the answers from 4 Pirates, I shortly discussed with Danog as the end of that last series. We're just wondering, why isn't there people picking more Tiny? And I totally agree. I feel like this Tiny hero fits in so many different roles right now. He's very stable. He's just as good as he was before, even with the slight nerfs to Insurmountable, the other tanky facet. But Crash Landing is just as good as it was before, and you can drop heroes to 50% easily with the Phylactery early on in the game, even if you're carry, even if you're mid. And you still look for that Blink Dagger anyway, no matter what position you're playing it in. So I, for one, I'm happy that people are picking up on the Tiny trend.
Yeah, I think when we start seeing more and more of these squishy burst type supports, there's going to be more and more of a Tiny response. That's just natural, and you're seeing him coming back into the meta. He's still not in full force because people don't see him as like first phase pick material, but in games when you have 2 squishy supports that would like to be behind, right, you would want your hero to jump in first. The Tiny just makes a lot of sense. This could be a good Ember Spirit game for 9 Pandas, despite a Shadow Demon. I guess that Shadow Demon is the one thing that might dissuade them from going that route.
And then, of course, having that SD in your draft, I think we're not looking at a necessary illusion-based hero to pair it up with, but at least it helps picking up the Magnus. You can set up for your stuns. Like, you get someone into bubble, you guarantee the Calling Silence from Huerta. You can get the Starbreaker stun to follow up on it. You can place people up for Tiny. So instead of getting huge benefit from your ulti, you have a very good shard this game, and you have a very good Q in this particular game.
Interesting. So we are going to be seeing most likely a carry Magnus. I assume it is going to be Dark Lords playing this hero. And then you have a Brewmaster. This is nice, right? Because with the Inkswell and the Shard later on, you're almost never going to be able to burst down the Brewmaster, meaning that his ulti is coming out. And it is one of those heroes who can create chaos, enough of the chaos, so that Magnus can find a good RP, can find a good jump in to bring somebody down. So yeah, this is quite cool for 9 Pandas.
10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining.
Do 4 Pirates play a Slark? Would Otaker pick a Slark in this game? Because it would be amazing. Like, insanely good. There isn't enough damage to kill you in this one. You have the last pick. You give night vision. Tiny in a game loves when you have vision heroes. You have save from the Dawnbreaker. If you mess up with the Dark Pack, there's gonna be somebody to bail you out. You do well in a lane versus a Brewmaster generally. So yeah, that's definitely something I'd like to see.
Yeah, and also a pretty good Slark Shard game, right? That whole Grim Lich combination, all those spells that
Exactly.
you throw in just disappear into thin air.
Dire team ban.
Yep, Death Shroud is pretty good. Especially
I would
because you
love
can
it.
you can dispel the RP stun if you get your Dark Pact off, and then you just save your whole team.
One thing about the Depth Shroud is that the Magnus can pull people out of it. So that is the one saving grace if they do go Death Shroud. So they banned out the Pango and the Storm. I still think the potential for an Ember Spirit here is quite high on 9 Pandas. Lanes well versus the Tiny. These heroes do not catch you that well. You work well with the Grimstroke. You work well with the Lich. You're gonna have a little bit of a pushing problem, but other than that, you're fine. And of course, you're gonna be buffed up by the Magnus, which is something that the Ember does love.
So I think now they're maybe considering that Slark ban. I'm not sure if they actually will ban the Slark, even though it is a good Slark game. Yeah, they got rid of the Primal Beast instead, considering that could be a tiny carry, but I think you have to swap things around with this terribly.
Magnus. So it's gonna be a mid Magnus. Okay. I thought he usually does play these. I'm gonna go in create chaos type heroes. Ember, Pango, Puck. Those are kind of his main heroes. So I expect him to go that route. But we're gonna be finding out what he can do on the Magnus.
I think one good thing about playing Tiny Carry is you don't necessarily need the MKB versus Terrorblade. I don't see a lot of TVs picking up the Butterfly because he's too squishy, and there's a lot of magical burst for Pirates. So you could have that option of just playing the Tiny with, the Conda build, just pump up the burst when you throw your tree in or toss somebody in there. And it looks like that's going to be the case as they pick up an axe. What do you think about
yeah,
that? Oh,
carry
actually,
Dawn.
Autechre with Dawnbreaker, so Tiny mid and carry Dawnbreaker. Okay, so let's rewind that just slightly there.
Yep. That is gonna be very fun. I was wondering when we were gonna see an axe. I mean, the problem I see with an axe versus a Terrorblade is that he will go for an SNY and he doesn't care much about the blade mail. But you do have the burst damage potential necessary to get him low enough. You have the follow up there so that the dunk can come out. And all of these heroes can die. Now you cannot purge off the call. So the Inkswell in that regard isn't going to be that great. It's pretty solid versus the Brewmaster. Okay, this is interesting. I wasn't expecting an axe just because we don't see it. I've been longing to see some of these heroes that have been out of the meta for quite some time, and on paper, this is actually quite a good axe game. 9 Pandas heroes hate to be bursted down, and when there's a Magnus, axe can always wait, right? You're waiting. Your Tiny will go in, the Dawnbreaker will go in, but the axe will wait. And then once there's an RP, he turns it around, because that's when everybody on 9 Pandas wants to jump. That's when they get together, and a multi-man call just instantly wins you the fight.
Also, interesting choice with the Grimstroke facets. You could have chosen the Inkswell pop, but instead he's going for the increased stroke damage. So, fine
I
arts.
think he might change his mind.
He might, but otherwise he's gonna, draw Sandy Claus like one of his French girls.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Fine Art just because it does so much damage, but other than the illusions from the Shadow Demon, you've got no extra units to connect on. So I'm not sure if I'm the biggest fan. Maybe the idea, and he didn't change his mind, maybe the idea behind the Fine Art is that they think that they're missing out on a little bit of burst. And Fine Art does give you a bit more than the Inkswell in terms of finishing people off.
All right, well, interesting drafts. Let's say something different for a change. A bit of a Grimstroke Lich combo coming out. I think it's been maybe 4 or 5 years. I don't even remember how long Grimstroke's been out there. But I would say it's been multiple years since I've seen a Lich Grim played in a competitive game together. Not to even talk about a pub game together, since these Lich is very highly contested, while the Grimstroke is a forgotten hero.
Yeah, I think you are overdoing it with 4 years, right? Because facets were added, like a year ago. I'd say before that, Grimstroke rather popular, so we could see it from time to time. But yeah, it has been some time for sure. That I agree on. Anything interesting in terms of...
So 6 years ago, actually. 6 years and 1 month ago, Grimstroke was released. So I wasn't completely off. I was thinking 5 years is maybe a safe bet.
Oh, you thought when it was released? Okay, yeah. That
Yes,
was,
yes.
Okay, that was a solid guess then.
Because that's when people started to like when I mentioned during the draft, what are the best combinations with Grimstroke? That's when people started to play it, and when it was released into Captain's mode. But It's been a while. Let's see if this one still works as it used to back in the day, as our bounties are going to be spawning. Still smoked up on both sides. They're going to run into each other. Shadow Demon and the Dawnbreaker. I do love that disruption animation, by the way, with the cosmetic on the SD.
It's amazing, but I think people with low-end PCs are gonna start hating Dota more and more as years go by. But also, guys, I know that a lot of people on Reddit usually ask, why is my Dota not working well? And then they quote their graphics card. Dota is a CPU-heavy game. You can literally play it with the worst graphics card in the world, but you have to have a good processor. You have a good processor, and it will work well.
Maybe Sandy Claus will get some new graphics cards, and then people are still going to be disappointed in their pubs. So, like, this game still doesn't work. And the guy's just going to be running off with his Slayer. Ho, ho, ho.
Well, what would Sandy Claus do if, like, somebody's, I need a graphics card to play Dota, and then get them a graphics card, he uses it for mining. That would be...
Classic.
Pretty sad.
So Magnus versus Tiny mid. You've got tossbacks, you have skewers. Tossback probably harder to make work in this lane unless a race is super deep. Like we see him literally under the T1 tower of Natty Narwhal.
Looking good on Natty Narwhal. I would say that Magnus at like when he gets 2 points in Empower, starts being a nuisance to the Tiny because you have 0 armor, but that only happens a little bit later on. So I would say that once they're level 6, that the lane is gonna be pretty close to even, with Tiny getting an early start, obviously, and then Magnus should be able to catch up a bit.
What do you think? Still talking about these two heroes in particular, so watching the TB unleashing damage with that Metamorph. Was this the original plan, to put the Magnus down the mid lane, or did they think they wanted to still keep it as a flex? Like, if you think about it from the team's perspective, was it originally supposed to be a mid and everything just, you know, clicked together with 9 Pandas?
I don't think that that they originally wanted to put him in the mid lane, because that's not usually why you pick the Magnus nowadays. And if I look at some of their previous games, I'm not really sure that I see a lot of Magnus mids, right? So I would say it was picked up as a flex with leaning towards being an off lane, and then it's just changed midway when they saw it being a good Brewmaster game.
Just want to look up Pro Tracker Magnus stats because, yeah, he's been... it's a 3-to-1 ratio of offlane towards mid. So still the majority play Mag from the offlane position.
I'm trying to see in the recent tournament if they played any Magnus. Not at all, right? So they played a little bit against the Magnus, but they played 7 games and none of them... 9 Pandas picked the Magnus. I'm gonna say it's not one of their priority heroes, or maybe it was banned out more often than not. So we don't really have a lot of stats lately about how much they played it.
Axis doing an alright job keeping up with the CS of this Terrorblade Lich lane. I don't think this was supposed to be easy in any way. Especially with them not needing the Frost Shield, just maxing out Frost Blast damage, and then the 1 point in Sinister Gaze. Also in bottom, the CS is tied between the Brew and the Dawnbreaker.
I guess that's to be expected. Both the Brew and the Dawn have pretty solid supports to help them in the lane. Both of those supports tend to get a CS here and there, take it away from them. The Muerta took a little bit more, but that is to be expected, as she is in the safe lane and probably got more of those creeps in the small camp. But overall, that's gonna be something that changes the lane, is that they do bring down lays.
That's one way to do it. You're able to kill the Brewmaster in the lane. That's a big relief for the Dawnbreaker. I was watching mid while that fight was happening. A race was trying to skewer Natty Narwhal under the tower, but a well-timed avalanche canceled the cast, which was almost about to go through.
Tiny is doing really well in the mid lane, though. I was expecting at this point for the Magnus to start getting a bit more. Though he is maxing the Shockwave. Let's see what he gets on level 5. Okay, still maxing the Shockwave, so not really utilizing the zero
And there's
armor
the
of
skewer.
Tiny. Yeah,
Shockwave on cooldown, though, which is, I think, the spell he kind of needed to kill this Tiny. Now he'll just get to do a ton of damage. But I think that could have almost been Natty and Narwhal dying. Still has a couple bottle charges, should be okay.
I mean, despite zero armor, the Tiny has 1300 HP, so this tower really needs to do some heavy lifting in terms of right clicks if you wanna kill him. But yeah, so far so good. Tiny doing well, and Magnus focusing on that Shockwave, which means that he's not trying to be greedy and not trying to completely dominate this lane. So I'm not sure what he is trying to do.
Yeah. You're gonna be jumping on the Brewmaster again down at the bottom lane. However, the calling doesn't really connect onto the Brewmaster. That will not get that movement slow. Plus, Brewmaster's really quick on his feet when you have the Storm Brawler on. It only says 5% bonus movement speed, but when you're brewed up, you get 2.5 times. That's 12.5% extra movement speed on level 1.
That is a lot, right? And you can get yourself away. Though Starbreaker just has such a huge AoE, people tend to forget about it. Sometimes you just make a mistake.
Let's watch this 6-minute rune fight. Arcane and Natty Narwhal
Got it.
will be able to take this one, and he pops it for the
he's in
toss as
trouble.
well. He is still in trouble. He might lose this Arcane. There's the RP. Jesvi coming in as well. Gets a nice fine art connection onto the SD, taking a big burst
second
at the
toss.
back. And there we go. Natty Narwhal goes down. And following up onto this Shadow Demon.
Huge damage.
That is just a massive nuke coming out, but Muerta's not able to necessarily win this fight. One
Deadshot in
versus
two.
two. A couple
He might
more
kill
hits
them
to
both.
Deadshot. He's got solo. And he'll win that one, keep his life intact. So that's going to be a 2-for-2 trade. Both mid laners and supports end up dropping. Muerta almost gets to level 6 by taking that solo kill.
The Deadshot barely off the mark on Jesvi, and he didn't have any raindrops, so that that level 3 Deadshot would have hurt the Grimstroke quite a lot. I can't believe how many Shadow Poison stacks there were, and Perdanchik, after those Shadow Poison stacks, now it's time to steal some Wisdom.
Good move there from Perdanchik. Get that one. I don't think Jesvi and Lays can do a whole lot unless they get the connection of this Inkswell. Maybe then a kill opportunity arises. Yeah, I think Perdanchik is done. But he's done his job anyway. Plus, he's keeping them kited
Help
for a
is
very
coming.
long time. And it's a trap!
He's alive?
It's a trap! Lays walks in like a hungry elf for a cookie. And he drops straight to Autaker. And that was a good turnaround because it took so long, he got so far away that Ariel and Autaker were able to rotate in. But there are some stacks being stolen by Solo and Erase, so well, Magnus will get a bit of a buffer.
That's quite nice. He is a bit afraid with the Tiny rotating in, so but still keeping his himself away. Okay, they want the TB. He has Thunder.
Does he get to use it properly? He does. Axe won't get the donk
Doesn't
out,
mean
but